Right, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and today I want to talk a little bit about the traditional finance markets very briefly because we've kind of done this to death, and frankly, I'm sick of hearing my own voice on this. Now, it's important to point out, I'm not just repeating myself because I haven't got any ideas. I'm repeating myself because we've been counting down the days to CPI and the rate pause because, of course, that is supposed to, if I'm correct with my overall primary hypothesis, trigger this run to all-time highs. The stock market seems to be pricing this in already, right? I mean, take a look at this chart. We're above this local high cluster for the S&P. We're a mere few percentage points away from the all-time high. So unless this is a big trap, and I think the Nasdaq is what 2% from all-time high. Is that, if I got that correct? Let me just grab this. Yeah, somewhere in the neighborhood of like say 3.5% at the most away from its all-time high for the Nasdaq, right? Of course, the Dow, whilst we're here, looks much the same, right? It's already halfway to its measured move target at 38.2, which is comfortably, as you can see by this red vertical line, above the all-time high. So overall, the markets seem to, at least for now, believe a cold CPI print is coming in, right? They seem to believe that the CPI is going to be lower, possibly even on a two handle. And remember, that's really significant because the Fed has been harping on about having a two handle for ages and ages and ages, right? Their entire financial policy over the past year and a half has been get inflation down towards a two handle. So if we can get a two handle, if we can see a two at the front of that CPI print, the market is going to really, really like this. The market is going to think, finally, CPI is done with, and the Fed has indeed engineered a soft landing. Of course, I do not believe it will have a soft landing, but that's what the perception is going to be for the masses, and the market is going to do very, very well into the end of the year, in my humble opinion. So we're looking to see that CPI come down, preferably on a two handle. That will guarantee a rate pause tomorrow, and then we should be able to get this melt up, blow off top moment into new all-time highs. So like I said, the market seems to be pricing this in at the moment. I, of course, would always do this every CPI print. Every month I say, when we get to CPI, we're probably going to see that CPI pattern, right? So up, down, up is usually the direction. So I expect some volatility. I don't like to get into new trades around CPI. There's always going to be volatility. There's always going to be chop. And perhaps we get this pump into a cold CPI print, followed by, I don't know, some hawkish talk or Fed speak tomorrow that gets us a shakeout. And then we'll get the true direction, assuming, of course, the CPI comes in cold. If, of course, it comes in hot, then my base case will be tested. There's always a chance the market doesn't care and we're just in this blow off top moment anyway. But I would think if the CPI comes in above expectations, then we might be in for forcing this cycle low at the very best case scenario and potentially even looking to roll over after that cycle low. So anyway, one day at a time as always. We're finally here. We're finally at CPI day. And after we get this print and the pause tomorrow, then we should be able to finally talk about something new for once, which will be nice. So overall, that's the stock market, right? In the world of Bitcoin, it's more of the same, right? Every 60 days, we find ourselves back at a cycle low, and Camel was saying the same thing over and over again, right? Every dip has its narrative. Of course, this current Bitcoin dip is no exception. We had this big liquidation cascade, this big flush, right in the timing window for a cycle low. If you've been here, then we were expecting this, right? Not only were we expecting this, we're looking to add, but there's a reason we don't just stab randomly in the dark. There's a reason we don't just count 60 days and then buy, because there's nothing to say. We don't get a hot CPI print today and this happens, bang, 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 and then we end up having a slightly later cycle low down here. That would not be the first time I've seen this happen. Remember, the cycle lows form inside of the 60-day plus or minus 6-day window 80% of the time. So that does mean 20% of cycles are going to fall outside of this window, which is why I'm not going to just stab in the dark and buy a wick somewhere in this neighborhood. I want to see confirmation. I want to see a big green, strong push off, and I want to see a breakout of this downward sloping red resistance line. Once we get that, then I will say that yes, for sure, we've confirmed a new cycle. We've got a new 60-day cycle ahead of us, and that's where I'll be looking to add longs on this breakout, just like we did. Exact same thing back here and back here. Excuse me, not back here, back here. But like I said, every dip has its narrative. The narrative for this one is a combination of Bitcoin being flagged in the National Vulnerability Database because of the inscriptions posing a cybersecurity risk. Does this matter? Not really. They're going to patch this thing soon. I'm pretty sure of this. I'm sure the ordinals are only going to be a thing of the past before too much longer. The thing is, they run up the transaction costs, and a lot of people think they have the right to pin inscriptions in here. That's true, they do, right? You have the right to do it, but keep in mind this was a design fault, really. This is an exploit of something that was overlooked when they added the taproot section to the layer 2. So overall, the biggest problem with this that nobody seems to be taking into account is this drives up transaction fees, which makes Bitcoin significantly harder to use in third world countries. Places like Nigeria come to mind. They really suffer the most from this higher transaction fee. So we do want to run the all disrespected patch. We do want to make sure that the miners start to patch around this. And I'm sure this is coming, right? This is coming. I know a lot of people, when I say things like this, are quick to challenge me on it. But time will tell, right? Time will tell if I'm right about this. At the same time, we've got Senator Warren coming out and introducing a bill to crack down on crypto. So again, every dip has its narrative. Is anyone going to tell her, right? Who's going to say it? Shall I say it? How exactly does one ban a Bitcoin wallet that's self-hosted? She just doesn't realize that there's no Bitcoin in the wallets. The Bitcoin's on the blockchain. Okay, the wallets just hold seeds, recovery phrases, private keys. So this is nonsense. Okay, this is nonsense. And you can tell this because take a look at this. Okay, 36 bills, 0 passed. 103 bills, 0 passed. You get the message, right? So this is not going to get passed either. This is, like I said, goes back to this, doesn't it? Every dip has its narrative. And most probably, we're in this neighborhood where we're going to see this Bitcoin Dalai Lama pattern play out again, aren't we? That's most probably what is coming. So we've seen it before. We'll see it again. Underneath the hood, Google's updated its crypto ad policy, permitting crypto trust ads to start in late January, which coincides with the expected US approval of the spot Bitcoin ETFs. So Bitcoin is still doing Bitcoin things. This dip shall pass. And of course, when we get our next dip, we will be able to append a narrative to that one as well. The charts still look great. And as you can see, going back here, we've done nothing different this time around. It's actually eerily similar. And this is right in that neighborhood to see a 60-day cycle low. So this is the 2020 fractal right here. You know, Bitcoin doing Bitcoin things, undeniably. Also, taking a look at the RSI, very, very, very similar to this neighborhood here right before the price doubled. Is this possible? Could we see a doubling in the price? Could we see the structure repeat and we get something more like this in the not too distant future? And again, under the hood, Bitcoin continues to look even better, doesn't it? If we come down here, there's a very small window of opportunity in which a handful of publicly traded companies will be able to disclose profits on their Bitcoin, which is held in corporate treasuries with guaranteed certainty. So because of these new rules that are coming into play, the likes of MicroStrategy, Tesla will probably claim profits on their Bitcoin in January 2024 for their Q4 of 2023. MicroStrategy has their Q4 of this year earnings call on the 30th of January next year, and Tesla has theirs on the 24th. There are also many other public companies with Bitcoin on their balance sheet with this opportunity in January. Again, if they don't choose to report these profits, then they're missing an opportunity here. Remember, prior to this, all publicly traded companies were forced to mark down their Bitcoin at a loss, even though they weren't necessarily sitting on a loss because of the way this was accounted for. And assuming we end the quarter with between 70 and 130% growth for Bitcoin for the year. Currently, remember, we're already at 70% growth for the past 3 months. So with our conservative estimate of 70%, that gives MicroStrategy a Q4 profit of about $8 billion and Tesla a profit of about $500 million on their Bitcoin held in corporate treasury. And the long and short of it is, this is not going to go unnoticed, right? This is not going to go unnoticed. Of course, the likes of Tesla and MicroStrategy are going to take this opportunity to report the profit on their Bitcoin. And in doing so, an awful lot of attention is going to be attracted to the fact that holding Bitcoin on your corporate treasury can add billions of value to the company. This is also going to prove to many people around the world that Bitcoin works as a corporate treasury asset. And again, like I said, this thing is not going to go unnoticed. So under the hood, Bitcoin continues to do Bitcoin things. There is, of course, still scope to see massive upside. And I still believe the pain trade is higher. Not to mention this current pullback, despite a lot of emotion in this market, despite a lot of people thinking they know what they're talking about, this has been expected, right? Daily and weekly cycle low tells us to keep an open mind about seeing much higher prices for Bitcoin in the not too distant future. So again, to reiterate, it's CPI day, rate hikes tomorrow. Of course, there's going to be a lot of chop. There's going to be a lot of volatility. It's always best, in my opinion, to let the dust settle. But there's a very good candidate here for a swing. If we can confirm that by breaking out, then like I said, we'll add positions, we'll move stops up, and we'll do the same for these crypto-related equities, right? It's also worth pointing out that look at the size of this projection of mine. It was only really an arbitrary squiggle, but we've come nowhere close to that. We're even more bullish coming into this cycle low. That might even be it. That might even be it. That's all we got. And we might be about to start firing out of here. That was not my expectation. I did think we were going to get much bigger pullbacks. You can see, whilst these aren't predictions of price, they are often not too far from reality. My arbitrary squiggles often are pretty close, right? And this is nowhere near. So if that was the cycle low, then how bullish is this? How bullish really are we? Take a look at Riot again. A little bit bigger, right? But that could well be it. That could well be the move, particularly if risk is about to start firing off, markets are about to go to all-time highs, then, you know, that may well be it. That may well be the only opportunity to get in. And if you're thinking, no, this is crazy, we've got to pull back more than this. Well, let's just go back to the prior parabolas, right? They really didn't allow a great deal of opportunity to get in, right? This thing just starts firing off to massive numbers before it gets shakeouts, and then it just keeps on going and keeps on going. So perhaps we're in that stage. It's too early to tell. Maybe we need to have a bigger pullback in the meantime. But again, if we see that cold print, if we see that pause confirmed, then any volatility is going to get hoovered up over the next few days, and we are on for seeing a massive bull run into the end of the year. It's also of note that the VIX, look at the VIX, okay, down sub 13, okay, so again, it sets us up, doesn't it? It sets us up for seeing these fireworks, not speaking to a volatility event just yet. All we really need is that lower CPI print, and things are about to get super duper uber bullish, in my humble opinion. One last thing, I know I'm jumping around a bit, Bitcoin as well, right? Assuming this is the cycle low, this is telling us something. The market is telling us something here, okay? Did we do anything logical like come back to test range break at 32? No. If indeed that is the cycle low, right? And I'm not saying it is. Like I said, it needs to confirm, but let's assume it is. Then how bullish is that? We didn't even come back down to get a 31k retest of this range, did we? We didn't even come back down to test any of this stuff, right? We're just firing up, quick pullback to above 40k, no less, right? Above 40k. Didn't even test 38. This is a pullback to 40k before a resumption of another perhaps full weekly cycle. So again, the thing is a lot more bullish than people realize. And it always makes me laugh that people get into this asset and this asset class in crypto in general because of the majorly outsized gains that this asset class can produce relative to traditional finance markets and the stock market. And yet, when Bitcoin starts doing Bitcoin things, everyone doubts it can go higher. You know, what are you here for? We're here for outsized gains, aren't we? So why is it suddenly a crime to say that outsized gains could well be coming next? Again, one day at a time as always, but I'm pretty optimistic at the moment, especially if we can see that 2 handle. So that's to be determined, right? But we'll get our answer today. Like I said, I'll come back tomorrow, review the CPI, and we'll talk about the rate pause. And by Thursday, the dust should have settled, and I think we will be printing all-time highs by Friday, unless, of course, we get that hot CPI print. Overall, what a year and what a week so far. I hope you're all doing well in life, and until next time, take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.